All right, we are live, alive and breathing. Here we are with Danny from. It's just Nav or Ride Nav. What do you
Nav Robotics. Yeah,
Nav
right now just the
Robotics?
domain. Yeah, Nav
Yeah,
Robotics is really expensive. So
you can put like anything like blank robotics and it sounds legit. Like robotics is just like it makes your company name sound so freaking badass.
yeah, very high tech, right?
But the thing is, you're actually like building robotics. You're like you're doing the thing, so it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, excited to have you on the pod. So for people that are listening, Danny and I know each other like fairly well in real life. Might deviate slightly from just talking about his company, Nav Robotics. But y'all don't know what he's working on yet, so let's just start there. Danny, what is Nav? What are you
Yeah,
cranking on?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so excited to be here as well. Yeah, so I'm the founder, CEO of Nav Robotics. We build on-demand self-driving e-bikes and golf carts for cities. So really focused on being the autonomous solution for short-distance transportation. The cool thing about it is because we're focused on these shorter trips at slower speeds, we don't have to use the same type of hardware and expensive sensors that Waymo, for example, uses. So can offer really affordable rides. So I always tell people really trying to apply Moore's law to the cost of transportation, really trying to pass that cost savings on to riders.
Totally. My first impression of you is I was like in a room with a bunch of people and someone brought you up and I went to your website and I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. You literally, if you go to their what's
Uh,
ridenav.co, is that your website?
yeah, ridenav.co.
.co. It's just
Yeah.
literally just like exactly what you just said, but it's presented in such a fun way. I'm just like this is badass. Um,
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of cool robotics videos out there, so took a lot of inspiration from like Serve Robotics, their website, and some other ones. So
did you hire like a professional videographer to get it done, or did you just do it on your iPhone? How'd you get the video done?
yeah, so I tried to shoot it all on my iPhone initially. So the robots you see there are actually remotely piloted. So I tried doing it myself and was remotely piloting the robots. That just did not come out well at all. So yeah, I ended up hiring a professional videographer to do it and like cut it a certain way.
Nice. There's
Yeah.
some things that we can do ourselves, but I think there's like some stuff where it's just like so much better off like having a pro do it. It's like for I've done three companies and they all essentially are the same type of logo. It's just black and
Yeah.
white with just like the logo in the middle. I'm just like I'm
Yeah.
not really a brand guy, so I don't necessarily need a cool logo, but maybe I'd be better off if I got one professionally done. I don't know.
But you did those logos yourself, right? You were telling me.
Just Canva, dude. I just like light
Yeah.
solid. It looked good on Canva, and I think the logos look awesome. And I think if I
That's
ever start another company, I'm just gonna do the same thing. So I think they look good enough.
I think they're good, man. I was really impressed with the logo. But yeah, it's easy now. I mean, you can just run it into an AI model, just text to image generator. So it's pretty easy. But yeah, same thing. I designed them all myself. But yeah, probably would be a bit better off if we got a pro to do it.
Well, so yeah, that makes sense. So how'd you get into this? Like, this is pretty cool. I've like beta
Yeah,
tested this, which I can go
yeah,
into in a bit. But what got you into wanting to build like short-term transportation robotics, or like how
yeah.
would you frame it, and like how'd you get into it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I yeah, frame it in just that way, right? Like autonomous solution for short distance trips. So yeah, basically the way I got into this, so I'm from Orange County, California, so the Newport Beach area. I try to be as car free as possible, but it's just not realistic to be completely car free down there, right? Like, I mean, cities are so spread out, you need to have a car. But biking is really important to me. So when e-bikes first came out, it really kind of changed my life because it expanded the range in which I could travel around the city on a bicycle. A lot of the big e-bike manufacturers are in Orange County too, so they were really accessible. So ended up buying a ton of different e-bikes. I still had a lot of issues with them. So, owning a high quality, reliable e-bike that's not going to break down on you like every 4 weeks is really expensive. They can be thousands of dollars. Still was having to carry it around with me everywhere. And and kind of store it. So that was really burdensome. And like the biggest issue I had was like you're gonna think that like I'm the unluckiest person in the world, but I had three brand new e-bikes stolen within like the span of 6 months. They were like locked up, had really secure locks on the beach. Like it was insane. So like after that last time, I was like, okay, like this is kind of a joke. I just want something that's like a lot more convenient where I don't have to worry about theft. I don't have to worry about kind of bringing these around with me everywhere. I kind of want like an Uber for a bike, right? And yeah, so that's how I kind of got into it. I've also been building robots on the side. It's kind of a hobbyist for a long time, and yeah, kind of decided to combine my love of transportation with robotics and do nav.
So can you just like talk about the ideal end state with I guess like with talk about with the bikes and then talk about with potential with like the golf carts, like
Yeah.
walk, how would it work once it's once it's all done with an autonomous bike? What would that flow look like for someone?
Yeah, definitely. So, our main goal is to basically build like autonomous kind of pedicabs for the bike lane. So, I mean, you tap a button, this vehicle for the bike lane drives to you, you get in, can tell it to go wherever you want, and then when you get out, you just end the ride, and it will go pick up another rider too. We plan on selling these outright too. So like if you buy an autonomous golf cart, for example, you take it to like date night or whatever, you go to a restaurant, you can kind of just flip a switch, turn it into a robo taxi, have it start picking people up for you while you're at the restaurant, so you can make money kind of while you're out. And then when you need it, you can just kind of hail it back, and it'll come back, and you can just kind of take it home. So that's kind of the main vision where we see this going.
It's wild. I think you if you would have said that 10 years ago, I think people would have thought you were like smoking crack. But
Yeah,
today, that's like a thing. It's not
yeah,
even it's not a thing, but it will be a thing within a few
yeah,
years, like with Tesla and whatnot. But like,
totally.
it's not like Tesla is going to have a monopoly on everyone having a thing that goes out and makes
Yeah,
money for them, right? It's like there's going to
yeah.
be dozens of brands that do this, but it's still early enough where I feel like there's like interesting stuff to do in this space. It's pretty exciting.
Totally, totally, yeah. And the cool thing about what we're doing is because these vehicles are so light, like I said, you don't need as much expensive hardware and sensors on them because they are moving a lot slower. I mean, you can make them for a couple $1,000s really. Whereas, Tesla, you're gonna have to buy those robo taxis for, like 10, 20, $30,000, right? They're gonna be pretty expensive. So yeah, it's a very affordable way to get this going.
So help me understand. So I live in like North Scottsdale. Let's just say, for example's sake, I live in Old Town Scottsdale. So for people
Mhm.
that don't know Old Town, which is most of you listening, Old Town is like this fairly walkable part of Phoenix, Arizona. Golf carts are already there, in the evenings and during the days, and it's like it's kind of a square. This is a guess, but square 3/4 of a mile where it's kind of happening. Um,
Mhm.
would I so I would like use this out to dinner in Old Town? Would it essentially work just in Old Town, or could it also be taken to Tempe, which is another city, or
Yeah,
taken to North Scottsdale? Can you kind of walk, like, if you have it figured out? And also this, I
yeah.
mean, it's kind of like a little, it's obviously it's a little bit of vision, but it's like
Mhm.
could it just like go wherever someone takes it, or is it stay in a certain geography?
Yeah, so it can. So a golf cart, it's limited to roads that are 35 miles per hour and under. But like when we first got, so like I said, we're from Orange County. We recently moved to Arizona. And when I first got here, I literally scoped out every single road in Scottsdale, in Tempe, in downtown Phoenix as well. And yeah, they're limited to roads that are 35 miles per hour and under. But I want to say like 60 to 70% of the roads in each of those cities are basically have that speed limit. So you can totally take it from Scottsdale to Tempe, or like downtown Phoenix. It's totally feasible.
How'd you why'd you move from LA to Phoenix? How did that come to
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. It's a good question, right? I mean, yeah, not a lot of people move out of like kind of beach town Orange County, but yeah. So we were gonna move the company to Arizona anyway. So basically, the self driving laws here are very minimal, to be honest. It's really they're trying to get companies to be more kind of technologically innovative here, and really trying to get self-driving going here in Arizona. So, to do this in California, it would have been very complex, a lot more regulatory hurdles we would have to go over. So, yeah, kind of plan was to always move to Arizona. And we also like ASU as well as like kind of a good first launching place. School is one of the biggest college campuses in the U.S., so getting around for those students is really difficult.
Where did you move to when you moved to Phoenix?
Yeah,
You get what I'm alluding to. It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
relevant
Oh,
because
yeah,
yeah. Where do you currently live, and how does that
yeah,
like impact your life, like and what you're doing with Nav? Is it like inform you
yes.
of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm living at cul-de-sac right now. For those of you that don't know, Ryan Johnson's the founder CEO of Cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sac is basically building car-free cities in the U.S. So it's awesome here. It's kind of like a perfect match for what we're doing, right? And yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah, basically Ryan is a very forward thinker, and really sees the future of where this is going. Essentially, when autonomous vehicles become more prevalent, there's really not going to be a need for as many parking spots as there are in the U.S. right now. I think it's like 5 parking spots for every one car in the U.S. Like it's freaking insane. That's why, just the way people get around cities and live around cities is so crazy. So, what Ryan's doing is he's really kind of eliminating the need for a lot of those parking spots. And when you do that and autonomous vehicles become more prevalent, you can really rethink the way we build and design these cities, and we can really make these things more walkable. So that's exactly what Ryan's doing.
It's wild. He was like out in 2018, 2019 doing interviews for this cul-de-sac company.
Yeah.
And like he saw this shit happen. Maybe it was 2020, I don't know. But like
Mhm.
it was no, it was 2018 because it was when I had my last company
Yeah, I
published.
think that's when he did YC, I believe.
Yeah. And then he did
Yes.
interviews in this office called the Wayne Smith. So funny.
Yeah.
Lots of history. But anyways, um, the fact that he saw this coming
Hmm.
from that long ago is wild. But what's even more wild is I was listening to an interview with Shervin Pishavar. I'm gonna screw up his last name, but he
Yeah.
one of the investors in Uber. He was at Menlo
Hmm.
as well. He a big
Yeah,
investor,
sure. Yeah.
and he was saying Travis Kalanick's
Yeah.
original vision for Uber is to build Uber into a world where no one owns their cars either. I'm just like
Yeah.
Travis, like that's wild. Like people have had these visions for a decade, but like it seems like it's finally starting to come to fruition, which is so exciting.
Totally. Yeah, it is. It's finally becoming more realistic. So I think Sam Altman was working on YC cities for a while, and they were trying to do something similar to what Ryan's doing as well. And Google had Sidewalk Labs. I don't know if they still do it, but they were kind of working on something like that. And then you also have Toyota's Woven City that are kind of building like these futuristic cities with autonomous robots and personal robots. So we're definitely moving towards that way, and cities are becoming on board as well. I mean, they're trying to basically plan and design around people, not cars anymore. So that's kind of what they're prioritizing.
So wild. It just, especially with Waymo doing its
Yeah,
thing in Phoenix, not just Phoenix, but we're the biggest market. Hear that, San Francisco? We're bigger than you.
yeah,
When we, it's just like this is totally going to happen. There's going to be
yeah,
cities that don't cater to cars. They're only going to
for
cater to
sure.
people. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, and that lines things up perfectly for you as well, because not everyone wants to, spend the money to take a Waymo. Not everyone,
Yeah,
some people enjoy different types of transportation.
hmm
Just like now there's different types, but just none of it's autonomous. But in
totally.
5 years or 1 year or less, maybe there's other autonomous options with Nav powering some of them.
Totally, yeah, absolutely. And I think when these vehicles become autonomous, it really allows us to rethink the way we design these vehicles, the experience that we design these vehicles around. I mean, you could have certain AVs for different type of experiences. So yeah, it really lets you get super creative, and yeah, could get pretty crazy.
I feel we've talked about this a little bit off air, like just like in our conversations. But I'm curious to like hear the way this works, like the way you're able to do this with a bike and with a golf cart, is that it's really just technology that you like put into the. These are very non-technical terms, but you just like plug it into the system, and then it just can drive itself. Or like, is it? It's probably not that simple, but it's probably not that far away from that. Can you walk me through how you're able to even just like do this without giving up your secret sauce?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you still have to train these models. You still have to map out different roads in cities. But the cool thing about it is, I mean, we basically built these kind of prototype e-bikes that we have for just like a few $1,000s with just cameras and a LiDAR. And yeah, I mean, it's because you're not dealing with as many edge cases as you are with Waymo, for example. I mean, you don't have to have these things be, go on the freeways or deal with high traffic situations. You're really not dealing with as many edge cases. So it's really kind of our goal is to make this kind of plug and play where you could put it on e-bike, you can put it on a golf cart, a bit like Comet AI is doing right now, kind of with cars.
I'm not familiar. Remind me what Kama's doing.
Yeah, so George Hotz, have you ever heard of him? He's like a big kind of self-driving guy. He's like always talks shit to Elon Musk on Twitter. He's pretty
Wait,
funny too.
is this LHOLTZ? That guy?
I
Holt?
believe it's HOTZ. I believe.
No,
I could be
I don't
wrong.
think so. I think I'm thinking of someone
Yeah,
else. But okay, I gotta find him.
he's a funny dude. If anybody hasn't heard of him, you gotta check out his Twitter. He's a funny guy. But he's building these little kind of like hardware components that you plug in to a car's CAN bus, and you can make it autonomous. It's pretty sweet.
Is there a world where you can like make anything on wheels autonomous? Like if I want to like, this is kind of a stupid question, but I just like it just popped up. Like if I want to take my, you know, a Lego set that like is a little mini car. I want to take my kid's car, and like which has wheels and stuff, and like can I like install a motor and like make that thing autonomous? Or, like I mean, why would I do that? I don't know. I'm just really trying to understand the technical limits, if there are
Yeah.
any, of this kind of stuff.
You can. I think it's totally feasible to do something like that. I mean, you need a computer, like a but so you need a computer, cameras, obviously a motor, right? But the cool thing about this is, I mean, the first prototype we built, we took a Segway 9-bot go-kart with it. Again, if anybody hasn't seen those, they are sweet. Like they go up to 30 miles per hour. They're really sweet go-karts. We took that and we basically made that autonomous. So we just added a computer and we added 4 cameras, and that's all we did. So yeah, essentially, if it has a motor, computer, cameras, you can do it. And that's why, excuse me, NVIDIA is crushing it right now. I mean, they're making these tiny computers that are like $500, but they're just immensely powerful, and you can run very complex AI models on them. So it's definitely becoming feasible.
Well, what did they just announced like a $3,000 computer? Did you see this? Like,
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
what do you know? Look, as people know on this podcast, quite obviously, like I'm not a technical person, so I ask like these basic questions to technical people, and people answer them, and that makes me smarter. But like, so I know Nvidia is like primarily known for a lot of things, but like the GPU, I think is a big one, right?
Yeah.
Help me understand in like super layman's terms, like these little computers they're making, they're obviously like not competing with Apple unless they are, but
Yeah.
like help me understand like why are they putting out these $500 computers? What can you do with them? What about this $3,000 computer? What can you do with that? Like, can you kind of like help me understand what they're doing here, at least to your
To-
knowledge?
Totally, yeah. So, I mean, the main thing that they're doing is they're increasing the compute for those computers. So, like a Waymo car, it has several different computers like that. They obviously build their own, but they have several different ones, and you really have to take the camera data that you're getting and the LiDAR data and all the other sensors and kind of fuse that. And you need multiple computers to do that. So, when you increase compute, you can get that going on one computer and really reduce the hardware costs on your vehicle or on your robot.
So the $500 computer that in itself increases compute because there's a compute, for lack of a better word, like on that computer, or that computer just able to store more compute, which means there's more power that can be pushed to wherever that computer is plugged into. Again, all non-technical terms.
Yeah, yeah, it's able to store more compute essentially. Yeah, so
Makes
that's the
sense.
gist.
And then it's the $3,000 one, just like that, like just can store that much more compute. It's just like more compute essentially.
Yeah, I don't know the exact amount of compute, but I want to say it's like 2 to 3 times more.
Do you we should I feel like I need to like do a series of podcasts where I just ask like AI people just like
Yeah,
these questions and just like I understand more than the average person about AI, but like when you say compute like it's pretty much like power, but it's like and like all this is running on compute, but it's like I'd like to just like
yeah.
understand more. How did you learn about like how do you know these things? Like I mean I guess you're technical, so you just like learn online or
Yeah.
stuff. Like how have you educated yourself on all this stuff?
Yeah, for me, so yeah, I'm my background's more on like software. So I didn't have a ton of experience with the hardware side. But yeah, I think with any engineer or any like entrepreneur, any curious person, I mean, like with me, I just learned everything online, like watching videos, speaking with people, speaking with my friends, and all my friends, like that's how they learn. Like I have a lot of friends that have gotten PhDs in robotics or computer science or even like postdocs, and like they didn't learn any like thing relating to building product in academia. That they really just had to kind of teach themselves and just start building stuff. So yeah, if anything, yeah, I see that I don't really understand. I'll just look it up and start talking to people, watching videos.
It's wild. I've started using V0 for coding, and
Yeah,
I'm like not 100% there yet. Like, cause there's some stuff I need to do in the terminal, but like the thing is, I'm starting to Google, different Git commands, and I now have a
yeah,
GitHub, and now I have
yeah,
all these things, and it's like I think because I feel like ChatGPT lowers the barrier to learn things,
yeah.
because all you gotta do is be like, here's a screenshot of an error. What am I doing wrong? And
Totally,
it just
totally.
tells you. It's like it's quite wild. Like the knowledge the knowledge it's just like knowledge sharing that's going to happen, that's already happened, that will continue to happen. Then it leads me to wonder like where's the scarcity in like or scarcity in like 5 years. And I think it's just like relationships, but
Yeah.
you never know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's going to be the next couple years are going to be crazy. But yeah, like I mean, ChatGPT. Whenever I run into an issue, I'll just ask it for help with programming, and it's a really quick solution. I think what I used to do is having to post a question on GitHub, or post a question on some forum. I had to wait like 3 days for somebody to get back to
Yep,
me.
Stack
It was
Overflow,
a
right?
freaking yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a freaking nightmare. So yeah, I'm glad that these platforms and these products exist.
So let's go back to where you're at and like what someone listening, if they're like, this is pretty cool, like I want my own bike, I want my own golf cart, like do you have, as of today, well, just two questions. 6 months ago, how long do you think it was going to cost you to, how much do you think it was going to cost you to put these things out? And has that cost come down over time as like more, all the companies have been building and trying to get the cost of compute lower?
Yeah, yeah. In terms of like the individual vehicle or like at
Yeah, like if
scale.
I mean, at some point I want to like buy one of
Yeah,
these, and you have it like roll around an old town and cut,
yeah,
take out the drivers that charge $50 for half a mile. I want to be like, oh, we'll do it for
totally.
$10.
Yeah,
So I just got
totally.
to be, so it's almost like for
Yeah,
people that are curious about like that standpoint.
mhm, yeah.
How is that like? How do you think about cost, and do you kind of wait for a certain technology to come out so you can lower the price, or like I don't know, like, just how do you think about that?
Totally, yeah, yeah. It's a good question. So like the golf carts, for example, like when we like first started looking at it, like I'd say like 6 months ago, I mean, we thought it was going to cost around like $40,000. Like I think you and I had like a conversation about that a while ago. I mean, that's crazy expensive as a first prototype. I mean, maybe that's okay, but like obviously not going to work at scale. So yeah, like continued to kind of work on it. The biggest issue is you kind of have to make a custom drive-by-wire system, which essentially means that everything is controlled by ones and zeros. There's no mechanical system that controls the acceleration and braking and steering, right? So yeah, obviously have to build that and yeah, get that working in a safe manner. But yeah, I was just talking with a manufacturer that does a drive-by-wire system a couple weeks ago, and yeah, we can build one of these golf carts for probably $10,000 right now. And yeah, so it's which is a bit more expensive than like a new golf cart without any self-driving technology.
Just like thinking like 10 years from now, just like all of Old Town, dominated by robots. But
Yeah.
that's the future, man. Like humans are flawed, right? Like, robots aren't. As long as they're
Dude,
trained on the right data.
yeah, dude, it's insane, man. I mean, the official statistic is there are 100 car deaths every single day, and most of them are a result of human error. So, like, I mean, it's like driving. You think about every time you drive, right? Like, how many people do you see like on the phone, like talking, or like on the phone texting? Like, it's insane. I was at the Arizona head of transportation department's office a couple of days ago, and yeah, we were just talking about saying the same thing. I mean, she kind of can't wait for the day when like no one drives anymore.
Is there going to be a time where like it's going to be illegal to drive, or you need like like a different type of license to drive because most of the cars out
Yeah.
there will be operated autonomously?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think what's going to happen is that insurance will just be so high that in order to drive a car, it'll be more of like a hobby thing for really wealthy people that still kind of get their fix on driving like really high-end sports cars and things like that. But yeah, I think it's definitely the cost to actually drive a car is going to be really high.
And what would drive up insurance if humans are flawed and robots aren't? So, like the chances of a human screwing up a robot-driven car goes up, or I guess help me understand why would insurance rates go up over
Yeah,
time?
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so just basically because it's so unsafe for humans to drive, and there's so many accidents as a result of human error, actually, that them driving these cars, that yeah, to insure them, it's going to be very expensive. I think like, you compare that to how many accidents Waymo has been in the Phoenix area over the last what like 2 3 years. I think it's around like 7 or 8, and most of them have been the fault of other people. So.
Yeah, it's funny. It's
Yeah.
actually it's actually not funny, but I saw a video on Twitter or something of like a Waymo. No, this wasn't even autonomous related, but I'm still gonna share the story. Like the video was like how to deal with insurance scammers or whatever, and
Yeah.
someone's driving. It's like in the middle of the night or whatever. Then someone just out of nowhere runs in front of the car, and the car hits the person. Clearly, they're trying to get hit. Then like someone magically on the other side was there to pick them up and be like, "Oh, are you
Yeah,
okay?" And
for
the car
sure.
just like drove off. It's just like I'm not dealing with this shit. It's pretty funny.
Totally.
It's
Yeah,
pretty funny.
yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, I remember like the first time I got into Waymo, I was definitely trying to mess with it. I was trying to grab the steering wheel and like trying to just do crazy stuff because I mean I'm just like so impressed by the technology. I mean it's real. It's literally like magic. But yeah, I see like people trying to mess with it all the time. It's funny.
Yeah, I know someone that tried that like honked. Actually, I'll leave them anonymous because they're someone that I'm close to. But they honked on the horn because like they wanted to honk on the horn. There was a car
Yeah.
that was, and then I think the Waymo kicked him out. Like they just like it just stopped and just pulled over and it was like you got to leave. You honked the
Yeah.
horn. I was like, oh
That's
shit.
awesome. Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's always fun. I know initially they were testing with remote pilots, so yeah, I'm sure they could like see everything that was going on like in the car. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
For sure. Is there anything else you want to share in relation to Nav that is like something that you maybe learned as you've been building it, or something that you think is like interesting about the trend in the market, or anything like that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I can talk about like kind of the go-to-market stuff that we did if that would be helpful for your
Yeah. Well, this
listeners.
is how we met in person for the first. Yeah, it's how we met in person. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Please
believe
share.
so. Yeah, yeah, you were one of our first beta testers. So yeah, we did a beta at ASU a couple months ago, and that wasn't our first beta. So we actually did a beta at UC Irvine in California, which is the closest college campus to where we're from. And it was horrible, man. Like it was really bad. So we actually tested it with the robots. The robots again, we tested these with prototypes, so the reliability was pretty low. So we took a lot of those learnings and kind of applied it to the ASU beta. And what I think, so just to give everybody context, at the ASU beta, we did that in, I believe, like mid-August when classes were first starting. And I actually bought a van and bought a bunch of different e-bikes and manually delivered them to students that requested rides. So we didn't even use our app either. We just used straight text messaging. So
And
um,
so I did this, and it was pretty like professional. And so I text this number to to book, and I text the number, and I'm like, wait, this number is saved in my phone. This number is just straight up Danny's number. It was your
Yeah,
number,
yeah,
which was hilarious because that's
yeah. I
exactly what else
remember.
would it be?
Yeah, I remember you were super surprised. You're like texting. You're like, "Hey, pick me up," and like, "Wait a second, this is Danny's number." Yeah, it was hilarious.
Because I
But
felt kind of rude because I'm just like, oh, and but because I don't know, like it's just this number. Maybe it was automated. I don't know, but it's
yeah,
very
yeah.
founder. It's scrappy level 10. The fact that it was to you, which is great.
Yeah, super scrappy. Yeah, I didn't want to buy a phone or like set up some like remote like wireless system to route the calls or the text messages. So yeah, it was super scrappy. So basically, what we learned is kind of from that first UC Irvine beta is that the most important part of a minimal viable product is kind of the viability of it. Like how viable is it? Because we couldn't even really use these things at UC Irvine when we were first testing. So that's kind of what we learned at ASU is look, like, what do we know is going to work? Yeah, buying a bunch of different e-bikes and just kind of replicating the on-demand experience that we're providing. We also like hired like 15 interns. I think you met a few of them. But those dudes were just straight up killers. I mean, they knew that they were part of a bunch of different clubs, and they were responsible for a lot of the rides. We gave them referral kind of payouts where every ride that they referred, they would get a portion of the revenue from each ride. So yeah, they end up making a couple $100 throughout the kind of 4 weeks that we were there. But yeah, that the viability is kind of like the most important thing that we learn. And with software, it's a bit easier, but with hardware and robotics, it's tough. So that's how we kind of manually did it at ASU.
I think the fun thing about the beta test at ASU was, my wife and I used this. And by the way, the bike you gave me was badass. It wasn't 30 miles per hour. It was like a mini motorcycle, but it was definitely an
Yeah,
e-bike. But it was
yeah,
funny
it
because
was
we got
sweet.
to our location and we just like left them there, and
Yeah,
it was beautiful because in theory and in practice, once it's ready, they'll just drive off, right?
yeah,
But
exactly.
it's just a really nice user experience, to be honest, and not having to
Yeah,
worry about do I lock up my bike?
yeah,
Is someone gonna steal it? Like,
yeah,
is if someone tries to steal it and it gets damaged, it's just like
yeah.
ride and leave.
Totally,
Pretty
totally.
easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like the other alternative, like the other obvious alternative is the scooters, right? It's just like the biggest thing with the biggest complaint that people have is, I mean, you have to leave those in certain areas now. They're highly regulated by cities. So the cool thing about what we're doing is you can literally leave the bike anywhere because it's going to immediately drive off, pick up another rider. It's never idle in public spaces like the scooters, and because of that, we're not regulated the same way either. So cities make these scooter companies pay very high daily fees and annual use fees. So we don't have to do any of that. We kind of have free reign to operate where we want, when we want, how we want, because these things are autonomous.
Do you have to go through the cities to enter a new city? Like, do you have to talk to the city of Tempe or someone in the city of Phoenix to do activities here?
Yeah, yeah. So every city's different, but we definitely go and talk to each city first. So we like to have a regulatory first approach. So I think what the scooter companies did and like what Travis Kalanick did at Uber, like they just kind of used brute force. I think that worked for Uber, but I think cities really smartened up after that, and they weren't going to let tech companies come in and just kind of change the way people kind of move around the city. So that's why you saw a lot of overregulation with the scooters. So we kind of took their learnings and really like to have a regulatory first approach and speak with them, get them on board, make sure they're okay with everything, and kind of tell them exactly what we're doing, and yeah, kind of do it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. When I think of Bird, I just think of David Sachs. That was his first investment out of Craft Ventures.
Okay.
Woo! And like it didn't end up doing. I mean, it went public, but
Yeah.
it didn't end up doing quite well. Do you have like an opinion on like did overregulation kill those companies?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you speak with anybody who was part of those early teams, yeah, for sure. I mean, like like people don't understand how much they have to pay in fees. I mean, like they have, every time somebody uses a scooter, like a portion of that revenue goes to the government. They
It
also
just
have to
kills a
pay.
company.
It
Kills it.
kills it. Yeah, they have to pay annual fees as well. They're capped on how many scooters can operate in certain markets too. So yeah, they totally. I mean, like you saw, like everyone saw how strong the product market fit was. But for the 2018 when they first started, the prices were low and they still could make the unit economics work. But because they're just highly regulated, they have to pay these high fees. They had to raise the prices a lot. They don't have scooters in a lot of the popular areas. So yeah, it just kind of killed what they were doing.
It makes sense, and I guess it means they're too early because I feel like there's more cultural shifts that are going towards like a post-car society now. Maybe I
Yeah.
mean, is that just like single-handedly Tesla and Waymo? No, because I think that Ryan Johnson knew about this. I mean, I guess it started with Uber, I guess you could say, and they couldn't do it,
Mhm.
but the torch was passed to these other companies that have kind of carried the torch to like to
Mhm.
these finish line of autonomous driving, which is like Waymo and Tesla and whatnot.
Totally, yeah, totally. I mean, I think like even like well, I would rather take a Waymo than take a public scooter that's kind of out on the street now. So yeah, I think they totally ate into the market.
Dude, I've been hit by multiple cars on scooters. It's
Are you
horrible.
serious?
Like the
Yeah,
situation when the car's turning right, but they don't put on their blinker, and I'm like going on
yeah,
a sidewalk. I
yeah,
fall into the ground. I mean, I'm a big guy. Like it was like not optimal. And then he's like, "Yo, are you okay?" And I see his car's like kind of like messed up, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Good
yeah.
luck." I just
Yeah, I
GG's.
know, man. It's crazy. Like biking is super dangerous. And like scooters and dude, when we were doing our beta, I was delivering a bike to somebody. I was riding it to them, and a car freaking hit me like from behind. Same thing. I was turning right, and they just kept going. And yeah, I tried to be a savage and rally and just kind of continue driving it to the rider, but I was pretty hurt after that.
Does I mean, how do you think about that for Nav? Like, is that people will get hit? Like that's I mean, or not in a post-human car society. I don't know. Like, how do you think about
Yeah.
these risks?
Yeah. So that's the cool thing. I mean, these things have cameras in them all around the bike, so like they can see what's going on. Uh, you know, 50, 100 feet, 200 feet around the bike. So like we plan on having a little, excuse me, sorry. We plan on having a little UI on the bike with that actually shows everything going around, kind of like a Tesla UI.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess like if you had to pick, and maybe it's not a fair question, and you can say that, but like, do you want to be bike focused? Would you want to be I'm forgetting the other cat. I always keep forgetting the name. Do you want to be a golf cart focused? Do you want to be multimodal focused? So have like
Yeah.
you've multiple types of vehicles that you run. How do you think about that? And then we'll kind of round it out with a few more questions and call it a day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, ideally, we'd love to have different options, right? I think that's the cool thing about transportation and what Uber did is they had multiple options, right? You had the high-end black version, which they first started with, and then you had Uber X and Uber Pool and different options. So yeah, I think in an ideal world, you definitely have different options. But from a unit economic standpoint, right now, where the cost of hardware is, I think we'll probably start with golf carts. Essentially, we can make the unit economics work there really well. We can offer a little bit higher prices than the bikes, and yeah, just a bit easier to build right now. So that's probably start off with the golf carts. But yeah, like I said, it'd be cool to have other options, with bikes and pedicabs and things like that as well.
Cool. And I guess what does the next like year to 2 years look like for Nav? And I think if everything goes as planned, like where are you at in 1 or 2 years?
Yeah. So, the next year or two, really just making our prototypes more reliable. It's complex to build a prototype, but it's not as complex as making these things more reliable at scale. So, that's kind of that'll take another year most likely. And yeah, really trying to fine tune our self driving algorithms to make sure it's safe because that's the other thing, right? You have to make sure these things are extremely safe, building in redundancies in the models and in the hardware. So yeah, that'll probably take up the next year or so.
Let's say you train a data set on like Old Town Scottsdale, and
Yeah,
then you plug that into like a golf cart. Let's
yeah.
say you buy, or let's say I buy another golf cart. do I need to train it all again, or do I take that same data set and just plug it into the second golf cart? Does
Yeah,
that make
you can
sense?
just yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the cool thing about it. You can just take that data set and plug it into the second golf cart. So as long as you have the same camera setup and other sensor setup, you can. It's really just a plug and play thing.
Makes sense. I think this is the
Yeah,
coolest idea ever, and it's cool because you're like technical. You can actually like do it, with the right financial partners and the right kind
yeah,
of like market conditions. Like this can be a real
yeah.
thing, and it doesn't even take a leap of faith to get there. Leap of faith to get there, and I think that's like pretty exciting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like we can definitely build it. I think what we'll probably end up doing for that first, we'll probably just build a golf cart with the self-driving capabilities integrated into it, and just try to sell that outright initially, and maybe just try to sell a couple of those. Kind of pull a Michael Dell, what he did when he was getting Dell computers going in his college dorm room, kind of in the early days, and yeah, just it'd be nice to sell 10 to 15 of these in Scottsdale. And then when people want to turn these into robo taxis, they kind of just flip a switch. They could start picking people up on weekends, and they could start making some money.
And then one last question that popped up, just
Yeah.
as you said that, is would you need other people to like the other people would need to like have an app to call these golf carts? So let's say I buy a golf cart and I'm
Hmm.
out to dinner in Old Town, and my golf cart is now free to help other people. Do people need to book it on an app? Could they like flag it down? I don't think I've ever asked you this actually. Just like
Yeah.
in general, how can someone like get like how does someone book a ride on a golf cart? At least
Yeah.
as of
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So we have an app. So yeah, you basically just tap a button, and it comes to you. So same exact thing as a Waymo or an Uber. Um,
Will you allow for this? Probably isn't possible, but would you allow for like a similar way that people can hail taxis? People can hail the golf carts.
Yeah,
So,
dude,
would
we think about I think about that a lot. I think that'd be a really cool experience. Yeah, kind of bringing it back to the way everything started. So you from a technical standpoint, it's totally feasible, right? Like you train these models to actually recognize when people are kind of like hailing. And you could totally do it. I think it'd be a cool feature. Yeah, interested to see what other people think, but yeah, I think it'd be cool and it'd be totally feasible.
I feel like you just need to like. I mean, I don't know, there's so many little issues with like, little things that would be hard to make to execute that on, but
Yeah.
you need to know who they are, right? So I feel like once they hail it, you'd be like, great, we can't move until you download the app, something like that. I don't know, but then
Yeah,
that's like added the friction. I don't know.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, we like the texting kind of thing,
Yeah,
like
totally.
texting experience. Yeah, so like there was a company called Magic. Have you ever heard of them? Or they came out like I want to say like 8 years ago.
Magic the Magic dot like the authentication company.
No, so they did basically like you could text the number, and you could get anything. So like if you wanted like a sandwich, you could just text this number like, hey, like pick me up, like a Bay City sandwich, and it would like basically like order it through DoorDash and send it to you. You're paying a premium for that, but it was like the coolest experience ever. So I think they're still around. I think the founder's name is Mike Chen, if anybody wants to look it up. But I think they're still around. They might be doing something a little bit different now. But yeah, like texting, like I love that. I think it's like super seamless. It's fun. That would definitely be a possibility.
Air Garage had a nice flow for texting, like where you pull up to a parking spot, there's a QR code, I don't know, I feel like they allowed you to book a spot without having to download an app, which I
Okay.
think I'll need to. I mean, I know where I know where their spots are. Maybe I'll go back and try
Yeah.
it out because I think like if you make allowing someone to like use this that hasn't already downloaded the app and like
Yeah.
give them a good experience, then having them download it I think makes sense versus another
Yeah.
app to download. Oh shucks.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Even like having a QR code that they could scan and maybe get like a payment link. But the other interesting
Right.
thing about that is that, I mean, if you have an app and you're taking payments through it, Apple's taking like, I want to say it's like 40% right now. Might be a little bit more. Somebody needs to fact check me on that, but it's ridiculous. And Android is a little bit less, but it's still very high as well. So yeah, that's why I really like the kind of texting or just like sending them a payment link.
Yeah, sounds like web app it is.
Totally, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Well, where can someone learn more about Nav online? Where can someone find you online? You have social
Yeah.
media? What's the website? Yeah, how can someone learn
To-
more?
Totally, yeah. So website is ridenav.co, so ridenav.co. And yeah, I mean, I'm on Twitter. I don't really use it that much. I just kind of look at like what Elon Musk is saying and other tech people that I like. But yeah, I believe I'm Danny underscore Minutillo on Twitter.
All right, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Sweet, yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Really enjoyed it.